Hi guys, and welcome back to Bookish Chaos. I'm Shay, and today we are talking about Cleat Cute by Meryl Wilsner. We are joined by my co-host, High Noon, because I need it, and also apparently my co-host, Aria. Meet my new dog. We now have 3 of those. Yay. Before we get too into this video, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and click the bell button so you get notified every time that I post a new video. Okay, off the bat, this one instantly dropped in star ratings for me because one of my favorite tropes is enemies to lovers. Okay, and this was touted as rivals to lovers, which is kind of like the same thing, you know what I mean? In this context, it's a sports novel. So, rivals makes more sense. It was not rivals to lovers. It was mildly inconvenienced by the mildly annoying girl to lovers. So, it got knocked down a whole star because, what? I was not given what I was promised. Okay? Because that is one of my biggest pet peeves. I love enemies to lovers so much that one of my biggest pet peeves is when it says that it's enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers. Enemies to lovers, but they're just kind of dislike each other, and then they fall in love. Like, when I look at your face, I want to murder you to then falling in love with you. Or it's not enemies to lovers. I'm just saying. Okay, the non-spoilery version of this story is it's about 2 soccer players who do fall in love. It's not spoilery. That's the whole point of the book, obviously. It's a rom-com. You get that. Grace is very guarded and very untrusting, and Phoebe is very open and very ADHD. She's kind of like a puppy. And it annoys Grace, but, like, not really. She's like, she would be. Normally, I would find the way that Matthews acts, like, really annoying. But for her, it's kind of cute. Ignore the ball squeaks behind me. So stop listening now if you don't want it to be spoiled, because we're going to go kind of play-by-play, but not too bad. Okay, so it is... Aria. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Please get down. Okay, it is a rom-com book. We have Grace and we have Phoebe. They are our 2 main characters. This is a rom-com. I feel like that is Meryl Wilsner's bread and butter. So when we start, we meet Phoebe Matthews. She is a personal trainer, and she is currently in the break room with her trans brother, Teddy. And her and Teddy are just talking about life and stuff. And then she gets a phone call, and it is Amanda, who is like the GM of the world team or whatever for soccer. She plays soccer. She just graduated from college with her personal training degree, and she played for their team. So she knows that she's getting ready to go to New Orleans because she got recruited by, she got recruited by the New Orleans professional soccer team. And she is going to be on the New Orleans professional team. But Amanda is calling to say, hey, we want you to go to preseason camp so that we can monitor you and see if you'd be a good fit for the World Cup team. And she's like, oh my God, this is amazing. P.S. Phoebe has red hair and freckles. So her and Teddy do the yay, 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 jumping up and down thing, and it's wonderful. Get a Grace chapter. It is also written in 3rd person, but from each person's POV. Grace is the captain of her team, which is the NOLA team that Phoebe just got onto. So we are at World's Camp when we open on Grace. And everybody jokingly calls her captain, even though another player whose nickname is Fish is actually the World Cup captain. Grace is looking around at the prospective team, the people that were invited to camp, and of course Phoebe is late. And she's looking at her flaming red hair flying around in circles around her head as she runs onto the field. And Grace is thinking, I can't wait I just really want to put my hands in her hair and put her hair in some freaking braids. Hemi, lay down, please. And I wrote, how long until she wants to get her hands in Phoebe's hair for more than just braids? So Grace is thinking about how she has a twinge in her hip, which is not good when you are a professional athlete. We meet Elsa, who's the team fitness expert. She's not really super important, but she comes in later to talk to Dawn, the NOLA trainer. We get context that a girl named Kelsey and Grace dated, maybe. And Kelsey is like, hey, check out your fangirl, and shows her phone. And it's Phoebe, it's a video of her as a teenager post a college game, talking about how obsessed with Grace she was as a child and how she is her idol. And it's super embarrassing. But also, I would just like to point out before we start this that Grace is only 4 years older than Phoebe, so it's not like there's not like a huge age gap. Why are you throwing stuff in my house? So, because Grace is watching everybody and Phoebe is barely late, but Grace says, Matthew's with me. And the camp girls are like, ooh. And Grace scolds her about time management and it's exercise time. Phoebe chapter, she's thinking about how Grace's advice was condescending, but still helpful. And Grace asks her why she isn't nervous. And Phoebe says that the field is the only place she knows what to do and isn't afraid that she'll mess up. First drill is against Grace to start. Phoebe has the ball. She breaks through Grace and through Kelsey, and then Fish stops her and gets the ball from her, which everyone expected because there is a reason that she is the captain of the world's team. And then it's time for the beep test, and the beep test is kind of like when you do lines in basketball, it's only in between two lines. And so it beeps, you have to get to the next line before it beeps again, and the beep slowly speeds up. So Phoebe's like, I'm totally gonna win this, and Grace is like, I don't think so, and she's like, you want to bet? And Kelsey's like, if Phoebe wins, she should get a kiss from Grace. And Phoebe's like, no, I don't need a bet to get girls to kiss me, thanks. And Grace is like, no, it's fine, because she's not going to win. So she pulls Grace up to her feet, because Grace was sitting on the ground, and she realizes that there are gold flecks in her brown eyes, and I wrote swoon. Phoebe beats Grace in the beep test, so technically Grace now is going to have to pay up on that bet. But Phoebe immediately goes to the trash to throw up. We get a Grace chapter after that's all done, and she's alone in her room, and she starts watching videos of Phoebe, and there's videos of, like, her skills. So someone at her old college was like, we're going to videotape her and get her noticed by big college teams, or by big professional teams, because this was a really small college. So she watches all the skill videos, and then she stumbles across fan videos. And she's watching all these fan videos until she gets to one that's like a fan video simply for Phoebe's dimples. And she's like, I gotta get out of here, but also I owe this really hot girl a bet. So she goes and she knocks on Phoebe's door, and she's like, and Phoebe just kind of stares at her, and she points with her hand. Phoebe just kind of stares at her, so she just walks away. And Phoebe follows her into like the little cubby in a hotel room where they keep the ice, and that's where they dip into. And Grace is like, I lost a bet. And Phoebe's like, you don't have to kiss me on the mouth. And Grace is like, do I want to kiss her? Oh my God, I want to kiss her. But because she's like, I want to kiss her, so I'm not going to, she kisses her on the pulse point under her jaw, like on her neck. But she doesn't really kiss her. She more sucks and bites at her neck, and it's super hot. Please ignore the ball chewing and the food eating in the corner. The bad thing about this microphone is it picks up all the other noises. So she starts nipping at the pulse point on Phoebe's neck, and Phoebe's arms go to her hips, and she doesn't leave a mark, though. Phoebe tries to pull her close, but Grace backs away, cocks an eyebrow at her like it's a challenge, which, I mean, come on, and then walks away. Phoebe chapter, we have fast forwarded, and Phoebe is now in New Orleans, and she is setting up her apartment in the housing that the NOLA team sets up for rookies. She gets there, and she decides she wants to check out the stadium, even though it's nighttime, and I said, bitch, it's dark out, and you have no car, and you're in a major city, but whatever. If you can't tell, I live in a very rural place in the middle of Nebraska, so I'm not going to walk around a big city in the middle of the night by myself, but whatever floats her boat. So she gets there, she jumps over the fence because she doesn't have a key yet. And who's there but Grace? Grace is on the pitch when she gets there. They have cute banter. I literally wrote, cute banter, Grace walks her out, and we find out that the rest of the team won't be here for a week, and Phoebe's like, I can totally seduce her in a week. Phoebe was like, hey, do you want to work out with me in the morning? I'm going to go to this place and go for a run. So we start with a Grace chapter. Again, we have a Grace chapter, and Grace is at the stadium getting some stuff ready, and she sees stuff in Kelsey's old locker, the ex maybe, and realizes, oh, they gave Phoebe Kelsey's locker. That's great. And we learn that it's been 4 years since she has had sex with anybody other than herself. And that's a nightmare of mine. And she thinks that maybe being around Phoebe, because she's kind of hot for her, will be like exposure therapy, and then she won't have the hots for her anymore. So, because they agreed to work out the next morning, Grace gets there, and Phoebe's not there yet, even though Phoebe was the one who invited her. And Phoebe's like, let's make a bet. And Grace is like, okay. And Phoebe's like, whoever loses has to pay for breakfast. And Grace loses. So they go for breakfast. It's cute. They have conversations, but she tells Phoebe that she's not interested in her because she's like, I have no desire to be involved with anyone. So stop flirting with me, please. But while they're at breakfast, Grace is like talking about how it's almost Mardi Gras time, and she's like, I will take you to a parade tomorrow. It'll be a parade that you like. So they go to Mardi Gras. It's not officially Mardi Gras, but it's like the pre-Mardi Gras Pride parade. So while they're there, this drunk girl like stumbles and falls, and Phoebe catches her, and then Phoebe and her flirt. And she walks off to the bathroom, and Grace is thinking about how she couldn't possibly be with someone who can swap out partners like that without caring. And I wrote, what the fuck, Grace? Like, I wrote, Grace sucks with how much she jumps to conclusions because she does. This communication trope is her love language. She convinced herself that she can't trust Phoebe because Phoebe flirted with another girl. But Grace told her that she wasn't interested, so she should shut the fuck up. So they leave Mardi Gras, and Grace goes to Phoebe's second job to confront her later, after she's been stewing about it for hours. So Grace goes after she's been stewing and is like, I'm not gonna be just another celebrity notch in your bedpost. And she's like, well, nothing happened, so you're not a notch. We just flirted a little bit. It goes back and forth, and Grace says, it's the principle of the thing. And I wrote barf, because barf, Grace, barf. They go back and forth, and Phoebe says, you're jealous. That's what it is. That's what this is. You are jealous. That's what this is. And Grace is like, I am not jealous. And so Phoebe gets called away because she's at work. She works at a diner as her second job. And while she is off walking around, Grace dips. She's like, I'm out. So after work, Phoebe's like, you know what, we need to work through whatever this is with Grace. Let's do it. So she's like, you want to kick a ball around? I'm like a dog, and I go stir crazy if I don't get to run around and play with the ball every few days, which would be funny as a joke if this was a heterosexual relationship, but it's not. So they scrimmage, and then afterwards, in the locker room, they bone, and it's glorious, and it's wonderful, and I have never been in love with a fictional character and wanted them to be real so that I can have sex with them as much as I want to have sex with Phoebe Matthews. My God, this girl. Whew. Okay, so while they're boating, Grace winces twice at hip pain, and Phoebe's like, what's wrong with your hip? Grace is like, nothing. And then after they're finally done, in various places in the locker room, she's like, Grace, we are not having sex again until you talk to the trainer. So we fast forward a couple days, and the team's here, and we meet Gabby, who we kind of got to meet just barely during the World Cup camp. And she's friends with Phoebe, and they're both rookies together, and so they both live in the same building. At practice, Phoebe talks about how she wants to go explore and go on the ferry. And someone is like, well, if you went to breakfast with Grace, maybe Grace could take you. And she's like, what do you say? And Grace is like, sure. So a few days later, they're on the ferry, and they go and they have dinner, and then Phoebe has to pull an all-nighter shift after they're done. And then practice happens the next day. Turns out the cook is really cool, though, that she works night shifts with, because they take turns when nobody's in the diner sleeping. But so after practice, even though she had some naps during her shift, she's still super duper exhausted. And she's talking to Dawn, the trainer. And Dawn says something. And under her breath, she makes a comment about Grace's hip hurting her. And Dawn's like, what did you just say? And she's like, nothing, please forget that I said anything. Well, Dawn does not pretend that she said anything. She does, however, cover and say that she noticed Grace favoring that hip or something like that. So she wants to see her. So Grace is out for 3 to 6 weeks. And she said, most likely 6. Like, it's going to be time for our season opener game by the time that you're ready. There is a commercial that she has to do that Grace, I thought it was going to be a bigger deal than it was. She shoots a commercial where she kicks the ball around a little bit. After she has been, told she's not allowed to do any kind of exercise, she does this commercial, and I thought it was going to be a bigger thing than it was, but it wasn't. So, she is out, no exercise at all. So Grace is allowed to go to practice, but only as, like, help. So she and Phoebe have, like, a moment where she is like, you're going too fast, because she's trying to, like, do the head thing where you hit the ball with your head into the net. And so Grace walks up behind Phoebe and, like, puts her hands on her hips, and Phoebe gets all hot and bothered because Grace is touching her body, and it's super cute. So after practice, Grace is like, you want to come to my house for supper? And Phoebe's like, yep, and they bone again. And they decide that they're going to be friends with benefits because neither of them wants a relationship. This goes on for a few weeks, and then Phoebe gets invited to the World Cup tournament, essentially. It's not the World Cup. It's a tournament that lasts for weeks where if you're invited to it, it's so that they can watch you play and see if they want to pick you for the roster on the World Cup. And so while she's there, Grace is texting her every morning before her alarm and calls her and wakes her up, and it's all cute and stuff. But one night, they're arguing because Grace thinks that she's not worth anything. Pika, princess, no ma'am. Because Grace feels like she's worthless and who she is doesn't matter. And Phoebe is like, you know what? I'm glad that I told Dawn about your hip. And Grace doesn't reply. And so she, after a few hours, Phoebe's like, whatever, I'm going to bed. And she texts her, I'm sorry, it just makes me mad that you act like you being hurt doesn't matter. You matter. So the next morning, still no text from Grace. But Amanda wants to see her, you know, the World Cup lady. And Amanda says, you're going to start defense tomorrow morning. I want to see what you could do. Because earlier, her and Grace had been talking about what spot she wanted before she went to the tournament. And she was like, I think I want to take Kelsey's spot. And she's like, okay, why? And she's like, well, I like that position. I'm really good at it, blah, 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 blah. Grace was like, you could just take my spot. Phoebe's like, no, buddy can take your spot. You are you. So, it goes good. We're like the next day. Grace can't sleep because she's upset about the whole Phoebe thing. So she's in a park near her house in like her favorite quiet place to go and meditate. And as she's walking back to her house, she sees Phoebe in her flaming gorgeous red hair and her suitcase just like under a streetlight on a street corner. And Grace jogs up to her and is like, what are you doing? She is like, Bitch, you can't stop talking to me because you're mad. And what am I doing on this street corner? My phone died. I don't have your address memorized. I didn't know what to tell the cabbie, so I told him the general place where you live. So yes, I've been walking around the streets in the dark, lugging my suitcase around, looking for your house because I wanted to talk to you because you stopped talking to me. Grace is like, fine, whatever. And on the way there, she is thinking about how she thinks that Phoebe is a sneaky bitch like Kelsey was. And it didn't help seeing Phoebe and Kelsey on the TV during the tournament together because, of course, it was televised. So Phoebe's like, what did Kelsey do? And Grace is like, she pretended to like me. She flirted with me. She led me on so that I would get her onto the team. She had a conversation with the coach of the NOLA team and was like, you should hire or bring this girl on. Recruit this girl. And as soon as Kelsey got on the New Orleans team, she just kind of pretended like Grace didn't exist and was no longer interested in Grace. Weird. Phoebe's like, that's fucked up. I would never do that to you. I don't want anybody but you. And Grace is like, well, I don't want anybody but you. And so Phoebe picks her up and carries her to her room, and Grace is like, oh my god, she's carrying me to my room. But I'm totally not falling for her. And the next morning, chapter change, Phoebe's like, we're girlfriends now because we said we didn't want to be with anybody else. That is not what Grace thinks. Because Grace is still like, it's fine, we're friends with benefits. And we get a whole lot of everything is Grace Henderson is my girlfriend. My girlfriend, my girlfriend, my girlfriend in Phoebe's head, and it's fabulous. I wrote, Phoebe's inner monologue is all, Grace Henderson is my girlfriend. Time jump. Last game of the tournament is officially here, and the team goes out for drinks. Phoebe and Grace have like an actual little secret date, and it's totally a date. Fast forward, and it's been 2 weeks, and she's still like, I have a girlfriend, and it's the night before the season opener. She asks on pizza night, so it's a Friday night, if she can tell her family that they're together. And Grace is like, you want to tell your family that you're sleeping with Grace Henderson? And then in her head is like, probably, because she wants the clout of dating a celebrity. And I'm like, Grace, stop it, you stupid bitch. My sweet Aya, he does not want to play with you. He wants to lay by my feet. And she's like, whatever. And then I wrote, OMG, the season opener is against Kelsey's team. So Phoebe has been stewing on the things that Grace told her about what Kelsey did, and she's not real happy about it. So during the game, she hip checks Kelsey, and that gets her red carded. So in soccer, you have red cards and yellow cards. So yellow card is a warning for like minor fouls, unsportsmanlike conduct, or persistent infringement of the rules. 2 yellow cards automatically results in a red card, and a red card means immediate ejection from the game. It is a severe punishment for serious fouls, violent conduct, or a second yellow card, and the player is immediately sent off the field and cannot be replaced. So your team is down a player for however long is left in the game if you get red carded. So she gets red carded. Coach is like, what the fuck were you thinking? She just keeps walking past him. Grace is like, keep your head up. She just keeps walking past. She goes in the locker room. She's like, fuck this. So she goes to the game room, so that, like, the game tape room, so that she can watch the rest of the game. They win. They, like, rallied and won. And while she's sitting there, Grace comes in and finishes the game with her, and they just sit in silence until someone comes in and says, hey, guess what? Your family's here. So G meets the family, and then later that night, they're talking, and Grace brings up that, you know, maybe you should get on some medication for your ADHD, and Phoebe freaks out. They have a huge fight. They eventually work through it. And Phoebe's like, I can't go get diagnosed. Here's the deal. I have 2 jobs. Teddy needs top surgery, and it's really expensive, and it's labeled as eclectic? Nope. Elective. It's labeled as an elective surgery, so insurance won't pay for it. My parents don't have the money for this. So anything that I don't need to literally survive, I send to my parents so that they can save up money so that this can happen for my brother, because it should be involved in healthcare. Not what this video is about, but it should be counted as a necessity in healthcare. Anyway, so They do end up making up. And Grace secretly makes an appointment for her because she's like, I don't have time to worry about it. I don't have time to research doctors that our insurance covers. I don't have time to do any of this because I have 2 jobs and I have a life sometimes, kind of. And so Grace makes her an appointment. She does the work to research which doctors take their insurance. She takes the time to find out which of those doctors are the best. She takes the time to call and be like, I want to talk to you about this. They talk to her. She makes an appointment. It's wonderful. So she tells Phoebe about it, and Phoebe's like, oh my God, I love you. And then she's like, I mean, thank you. That was really nice of you to do that for me, since neither of us wants to have a relationship. And Grace is like, okay. So Grace is stewing on the fact that Phoebe said I love you, but then was like, I don't want to be in a relationship. So she calls her best friend, who we met in the World Cup stuff, and that is Mediha, and her girlfriend Sarah, who just goes by H. And Fish, the captain of the world's team, happens to also be there. And she's like, here's the deal. I've been having sex with Matthews. And I think I want to have a relationship with her. And she kind of told me she loves me. And they're all like, okay, so that's a shock, but also grand gesture. You need to do a grand gesture. So while Grace was out for that 3 to 6 weeks, she got really depressed. And she was like, do I even want to play soccer anymore? Does it even matter? Is life even worth living? And she had a conversation with her dad. And he was like, the reason why I bring up soccer is because that is what you're into. That's what you do. That's your whole life. If you decided you didn't want to play soccer, we would find something else to talk about. If you don't want to play soccer, don't play soccer. I love it because you love it. And he's like, it's okay to not do things that you don't want to do. So she decides she's going to keep playing soccer because she loves soccer, but she's not going to do press anymore because she hates doing press. But she did promise an exclusive interview to one person. So she's like, I'm going to do this exclusive interview, and then I'm never going to do press again. So her grand gesture is, during this exclusive interview, she comes out publicly, because she's never came out publicly. She came out to her parents, but, like, that's it. And she subtly talks about this girl that she likes, that she kind of wants to have a relationship with. So the day after the interview comes out, they're sitting in the locker room, everybody except for Grace, because Grace was doing something else. And they're like, oh my God, have you seen Grace's article yet? And Phoebe's like, what are you talking about? And Grace happens to walk around the corner, and she's like, Phoebe, I need to talk to you right now. And so she takes her to the ball closet, which is funny, and you have to read the book to find out why it's funny that they're in the ball closet. And she's like, okay, read the article. And so Phoebe reads the article, and she's like, is the girl that you want to have a relationship with me? And she's like, yeah. Who else would I be talking about? And she's like, well, I don't know. And she's like, so will you be my girlfriend? And Phoebe's like, what are you talking about? We've been girlfriends for a month. And it's really funny, and it's really cute, and I love it so much. She's like, we've been together for a month now, so whatever. And it's super cute. So that's the end of the technical book, but then we have the epilogue, and the epilogue's real short. It's like the first game of Worlds. They're both on the World Cup team. It's great. Phoebe's really fucking nervous. We get all of her nerves in her inner monologue, and Grace talking her through it, and Grace doing hair, and it's super adorable, and I love it so much. And then Phoebe walks out onto the field, and all of the nerves go away because she's there, and she's doing what she's good at, and she's doing what she loves, and everybody lives happily ever after, and the book ends. So I enjoyed this book so freaking much. I loved it. I ate it like every morsel, but I'm still mad that it was not Rivals to Lovers. So I am that petty that I will knock it down a star rating because of that. But my star rating is still a 4 because this would have been a 5-star book for me. The characters are great. The characters are amazing. I am absolutely in love with Phoebe Matthews and wish that she was real. Yes, I still love my husband, but oh my God. I would be convincing my husband that we needed to be in a throuple if Phoebe Matthews existed. My God. But this book was so good. It's so good. Grace is kind of annoying with how she's not self-righteous, but she miscommunication trope is her love language. I swear to God. She just doesn't ask questions. She just makes assumptions, and what Grace says goes. It's ridiculous. But I'm assuming she eventually gets over that, which is good. But yes, I recommend this book to absolutely everybody. It is so amazing, and their love is so great. And Phoebe Matthews, she is the queen of dirty talk, and no one will ever take that crown. I can almost guarantee it. So, thank you for watching this video. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Bye. And if you made it to the end of this video, go ahead and drop a soccer ball in the comments, or a flamin' red-haired girl for Phoebe Matthews, the new love of my life.